Hello everyone, it's Carrie, and in this video I'm working on part 1 of my Death Becomes Her set, where I create Goldie Hawn and Meryl Streep's characters from the movie Death Becomes Her. In this one I'm working on Goldie, and I'll be showing you how I did the body modification and the face-up, and then some final looks at the end. We'll see the full photos of the set in my next video, which should be uploaded on Friday. So to get started, I'm working on the body to modify it so I can make the hole that a part of the movie Goldie Hawn has been shot through the stomach and has a big hole in her stomach, so that's what I'm creating here. I was really surprised to learn that it wasn't completely hollow inside. There was a lot of little pieces, so what I'm doing is just drilling those out with my Dremel and just kind of working away at it. It was actually quite simple, much easier than I thought it would be. There may have been other methods that I could have used, but this one worked great. So I'm just sanding it down with some fine sandpaper to get rid of those rough edges, because I'm really only going to fill in the inside. So to do that, I'm using this epoxy sculpt, and I'm getting equal portions of each of the putties. And then I'll just mold them and mix them together. So at this point I realized that I would be making the body really heavy, and I didn't want her to be top heavy from the legs, so I thought I would fill her with some foil just to give it a little less weight. And as I'm doing that, I'm testing the arms and legs just to make sure that I'm not stuffing it too much that it inhibits the articulation. And I'm stuffing it very lightly. I'm not trying to pack it in there because I think that could affect how the arms and legs move, potentially, maybe. So I just was careful with how heavily or how packed it was. I was just kind of filling it in lightly. Then I took the putty and I worked it in around the edges, and I just added a tiny bit of detail, which I don't show on screen, but just some lines to give it some ridges. Later on in the video I'll show you how I went back and painted it. So onto the face up. And I'm using some Goldie Hawn reference photos from the movie. And at this point I've given her about 4 or 5 coats of Mr. Super Clear. I've mentioned this in other videos, but if you're new to my channel you may not have seen those. So I do encourage you to check out my playlist to see my previous videos, since I have quite an extensive list, or several playlists and an extensive library of videos. But so like I said, I mentioned this in other videos, but if you're having some trouble with the vinyl taking the paint, this is one of the most common issues that or questions that I'm asked, is how to be able to draw on it so easily. And I highly recommend Mr. Super Clear. It's really, I've tried several different sealants, probably just about every one that there is, every method, and I find that this is hands down the best sealant, and there really just is no other option for me. If you're a beginner and just trying it to create a doll for yourself, it would make it a lot easier for you if you use Mr. Super Clear, but there are other options. I may have a sealant video. It seems like I made one a long time ago. If I did, please excuse the quality of it because it's probably very old, but it may have some information about how I tested them. If I did, then I'll put that in the iCard or link it below. But the only other sealant that I use is the Army Painter, and it's an anti-shine matte varnish, and that works great. It doesn't have the UV quality or the UV protection that Mr. Super Clear does, but it does work as close as any. It works pretty close to what Mr. Super Clear does. The tooth is just a little bit thicker, I think. I don't know if that makes sense, that you just have to try it to see what I mean, I guess, but it's not as fine tooth as Mr. Super Clear, but I use it often on the body, but not on the face because it doesn't have that UV protection, and I sell all my dolls. So anyway, so that's my spiel about sealants, and there's just no other than Mr. Super Clear. So if you're not using that, that's your first problem if you're having issues. And second is the way that you seal. So if you're not holding the can far back enough, you need at least like 7 or 8 inches from the doll, and just do like a sweeping motion while spraying, like 2 times passing. Let it dry for a few minutes, like 5 minutes, give it another pass, and do that like 4 or 5 times. I suggest at least 4 before you get started. And then later on when you spray it again, like I usually spray it at least once in between the process. Like once I get so far in the face up, I'll spray it again. And like two more layers. And at that point it really builds up a really nice tooth. So it is just the more layers, the better. So I hope that helps you guys. If you have any questions about it, please let me know in the comment section and I'll do my best to answer your questions. And it also just takes practice. I got better as the years went on. The more I worked on this, the better I was able to seal them, and it gets easier. Sometimes there's an issue with weather. I've always been able to work on dolls no matter what the weather, but I have noticed that the tooth isn't as nice if it's very cold or if it's very hot. It doesn't work as well, but it always works okay for me. So at this point I'm using my pan pastels and doing some shading, and the supplies that I used along with affiliate links are in the description box below. So anytime you click on those to make a purchase, whether it's the product you clicked on or not, we do get a very small commission for what your purchases are, and that's very helpful and appreciated. So I'm using this Wet n Wild blush or eyeshadow brush. I like to do my blush with that. And then I'm shading, giving her just a bit of a smoky eye on the outer corners with some black pan pastel. On the right of the screen, I think it should be your right, is the pearlescent. Well, there was the pearlescent black on the right, but I guess I exchanged it with the brown. But I like to use the pearlescent when doing a smoky eye. It blends it out a little bit nicer than the regular black. So I'm doing her eyebrows with this burnt sienna color, pan pastel, and then I go back in and I add the lines. So I guess I'll take a moment to thank all my patrons. So I'm very excited for the most recent relaunch that I did last week, or at the time this video is posted, it'll be about 2 weeks ago. Thank you so much to everybody who's been a patron and to all the new members. I'm very excited with how the rollout went, and I'm so excited for all the things that I have planned for Patreon. And so if you're looking for more close-up learning, check out my Patreon page and see the perks that I have to offer. I have a lot of video clips and just really good information planned for for face-up help and even business planning as far as handling commissions and how I price my dolls and things like that. So all that's coming up in the coming months, and I'm continuing to come up with ideas to share. I do a few different posts each month. So if you're a supporter over there, thank you so much, and I hope you look forward to the good stuff I have around the corner and the stuff that I've already shared, and let me know your feedback. So if you're interested in being a patron, the link is in the description box below. So when I was looking at Goldie Hawn's reference photo, she had, it was really dark shading on her inner eye area, in the inner eyelid area. So I'm shading that in darker, and I'm giving her more of a jawline with some shading with my angle brush there. and giving her a bit more overall color because the doll that I'm using is lighter than the skin tone it appeared that she had at the time of the movie. And I think I'm using some colorless blender. Yep, using some colorless blender to blend that all out. Now I'm going back and doing some highlights with some white on the forehead, nose, and probably the chin. Just shaping up those lips with the Derwent watercolor pencil in Crimson Red. Just refining the shape a little as well. I'm just judging where I'm going to put that Goldie Hawn beauty mark and darkening it in. So for her eyes, I'm trying to leave just a little bit more white around them than I usually do on the upper lid and lower lid. They're kind of touching the lid, but usually I had a little bit more than this. But what this does is it just gives her more of a surprised look. And that's how she appeared in most of the reference photos that I was seeing from the movie. So just wanted her to look surprised or shocked. Just darkening the outer corner or outer edges of the iris. And then when I add the pupil, I'm making it smaller, a little bit smaller than I usually do, because that also gives a little less of an innocent look. When they're larger pupils, it looks a little more innocent, and when they're smaller, it's good to do smaller ones, in my opinion. When they're shocked or scared or mad, I like to do smaller pupils. Just doing some highlighting. And I'm taking some black pan pastel and shading in the upper lid area just to give more of a shadow. And then adding the highlights. Then I'll go in and add the lower lashes. And then to finish, I'll give her 4 or 5 more coats of Mr. Super Clear and let that dry, and then I'll go in and give her some high gloss varnish on the eyes and lips, and then add the upper eyelashes. If you're a supporter over on Patreon, I have a video available now how I make the BJD eyelashes. Instead of purchasing those, I make them. And there she is. So now I'm just painting in the hole in her stomach. I painted it with some black chalkboard paint first as sort of a primer, and then I added a little bit of red just to kind of pull it out. But it's kind of singed, so I really only needed to use black and red with not a whole lot of detail, because it wasn't like I needed to create guts or anything. since it was just like everything's burned. It was like a burned hole through her stomach. Anyway, hope that makes sense. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd love it if you gave it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate you watching. I hope everyone has a great day. Stay tuned till next to Friday for the Meryl Streep and to finish off the set. Have a great day. Bye.